Hello there, and welcome to The Meaningful Stitch. This is episode 42, and I am Amy Palco, and I'm coming to you from Edinburgh, Scotland. And this is the place where I like to share my knitting practice and my knitting projects. If you're new here, thank you for coming and checking this out. I hope you enjoy what you find, and if you do, please do subscribe. And if you have been here before, then you know the score. The description box below will give you all the show notes. There's also a link to a Patreon page that is freely accessible by all, and that includes slightly more detailed show notes, which includes photographs. And that's also the place where I share a lot more content. So if you are interested in supporting this channel, then you can go and check out all the things that I do over there. There's also a Ko-Fi link down below, and there is also, my mailing address as well, in case anybody needs it. So you'll find all of that in, like I said, in the description box below. So thank you so much for being here. This is part of my summer experiment in podcasting. So I've been podcasting for, oh gosh, it's coming up for 3 years now. And I've decided to shake things up a little bit by kind of throwing away my usual structure of what's on my needles, what's off my needles, what's going to be on my needles, and starting to look a little bit more at the making practice. So shifting the focus away from product and back to practice. So far I'm really enjoying it, and it seems to be freeing up a little bit more opportunity to podcast as well. So you're getting a little bit more of me than you have in the past. So I hope that's okay. At the very end of this episode, I have some video footage to share just from my neighbourhood really. And in the previous episode, I shared some footage from my neighbourhood, and that was when I walked over towards the shore and up the water of Leith. And this time I'm going to take you a wander along the cycle path network over to the Edinburgh Botanical Gardens, which is what I did yesterday. So I'll tell you all about that towards the end of this episode, and then I'll show you some fun footage from there too. So I hope you really enjoy what I've got to share with you today. So when I last podcasted, it was Friday morning. It was all a little bit hectic, and then I was going to do all the editing in the afternoon, and then I was going to get it up onto YouTube so I could share it with my patrons, because patrons receive these episodes 24 hours before everybody else does. So I did get the recording done, and I was in the middle of editing when I got a little message from my very soon-to-be sister-in-law, and she was in the area and with her wee one Alex, and so they were going to pop over, and that was great because I needed to measure Alex because I've been asked to knit a cardigan for him. So I'll show you a little bit more about that later on, but they popped round, and that was really nice. So I got to measure him up. He's very pleased that he's got his measurements done now. It's very cute. and yeah, so that was fun, and we picked out our yarn for the project, and then we went for a wee walk, and it was lovely. It was just very, very chill. But when I came back, it was a little bit frantic trying to get everything edited, the show notes all written up, and everything posted, because that evening we were going to go out to a restaurant that I really like in Edinburgh over on Lothian Road called Taupe, and it is Mexican food. And one of the things that I really like about it is that it's the menu only specifies when something does have gluten in it, rather than saying if it doesn't have gluten in it. So you can just safely assume that everything doesn't have gluten in it unless it's specified on the menu to say this is not GF. And that's quite unusual, because as somebody who can't have gluten, unfortunately, I do tend to feel that you're sort of the exception. And that's a little bit uncomfortable for me. So being put in the role of not being the exception, that I can have everything on the menu, I'm apart from a handful of things, is actually a really lovely feeling. So, and the food is very good, and it's small plates. I really like small plates. So yes, that's that we decided we were going to go there, and then the following morning I wasn't very well, and I think why I wasn't well was actually because before we got to Topolobamba, we got into town a little bit early, and so we went to a pub that was close by, and I had a gluten-free beer. And I've since discovered that not all gluten-free beers are as gluten-free as others. So yes, that was a bit unfortunate, but I am now going to have to be really careful about having any beer at all, I think. So that was a bit sad. No, I'm not a big beer drinker, but I do quite like a bottle of cold beer in the summertime. It's quite refreshing, but that's I think it's going to be a long time before I have any. but yeah, so that was all that was going on really on Friday. It was just a big whirlwind, and I realised that I've launched into that whirlwind without even telling you what I'm wearing. This is the problem with throwing your structure and your schedule out of the window. You start to miss things out. But before I go on and tell you about the rest of my making, this is the Marettimo tea. It is by Caitlin Hunter. It's knitted in Fyberspates. I think it's the Vivacious 4-ply, which is their 100% wool, superwash wool base. This colour here is Verdigris. This colour here is Peach Bellini. It does also have lace down at the lower hem, but that is tucked into my dungarees, so you can't see it. It's a little bit oversized, so it's quite loose. I thought this was the perfect outfit for today because it's a little bit breezy outside. It's a little bit cloudy, but still lots of sunshine. But I've just been outside to put the washing out, and it was absolutely roasting, and it has illuminated the fact that I am actually completely overdressed, and I will actually have to put something a little bit lighter on before I go out this afternoon. So anyway, that's what I'm wearing. I knitted this quite a few years ago now. Caitlin Hunter generally brings out a summer tea pattern, and she gives them Italian names. So this is the Marettimo, sorry. I've also knitted the Tegna, which I really like, but I have knitted the sleeve too small, too tight on that, so I don't tend to wear it. I would like to knit that in a summer yarn in a slightly larger size, I think, and not do the decreases in the sleeves. Something to watch out for, I think, in those, with that particular designer with those sleeves. If it's short sleeves, I don't really see the point in doing sleeve decreases. And I should have listened to myself, and I did not. So I did the sleeve decreases and they're too tight. So I generally don't wear that one very often. But this one, I didn't do the sleeve decreases. It's absolutely fine. And it's very comfortable. But like I said, perhaps a little bit too warm for today. So there you go. Saturday I didn't get outside very much at all, so I just curried in, and I will apologise because I'm going to do that thing that I said last time really annoys me, which is that I was working on my secret knit. So I still can't share my secret knit with you, but I'm hoping to be able to share it with you really soon. The good thing is that I finished it at the weekend, so you don't have to keep hearing me tempt you with it and call it secret. So that's something at least. But yes, I was busy working away on that, and just taking a really soft and restful day while my tummy recovered from obviously some gluten before. It definitely wasn't the restaurant. I was actually sick earlier on in the week as well, and I'd also had the same gluten-free beer. So the commonality here is absolutely the gluten-free beer. So yes, anyway, I took some time on Saturday. I just sitted and knitted and relaxed, and it was lovely. And then in the afternoon, I was actually signed up to do a seminar with the Faculty of Astrology. Now, the Faculty of Astrology are based down in England. I think they're based in Oxford. I am signed up to do their summer school this year. Now, last summer I did their online summer school and I really enjoyed it. But as with all things, I think being in person is quite often the better option. And so this year I'm going to be at the summer school, the residential summer school. I have been learning astrology since, 2012. I use it all the time for my work. One of the things that we do in my sessions with clients is that we look at their astrological charts. I do a lot of work with goddess archetypes, and there are a lot of goddess asteroids, and so I like to plot the asteroids into a person's astrological chart so that we can start to add their stories into our personal narratives. So it's something that I'm very familiar with, it's something that I work all the time with, and it's something that I absolutely love. And so the thought of going and spending 5 days learning more and more about it from very wonderful teachers and meeting other people who are very excited and interested in this topic as well. I think it sounds really thrilling, and it is outside my comfort zone. I don't know, if you're anything like me, then, well, I'll just say this for me rather than extend it to anybody else. Before the pandemic and the lockdowns, I would have said that I was a relatively outgoing person, and that I would have described myself more as an extrovert. And then I feel quite changed by the lockdowns. I think I've become much more introverted. I think I've become a quieter person. You're probably laughing. Quieter than I was, not a quiet person. Just to make that clear. But doing things, and particularly social things, feels like more of an effort now than it did before. So it feels, particularly if it's a social thing where I don't know anybody and I'm kind of putting myself out there. This is why Rhinebeck's going to be really interesting in October. Maybe that'll be just the ticket that I need. But putting myself out there into the world feels a little bit, a little less natural than it used to do. And so when I think about going to this residential school in August, this summer, it feels outside of my comfort zone. But it doesn't feel outside my comfort zone in a bad way. It feels invitational, it feels exciting, and I think it will really be very inspiring, and I hope that I make lots of new friends and interesting new connections and find some teachers as well. You know, it's always good to find new people to learn from. So yeah, that's all happening. But before that, I also do online seminars, so and anybody can sign up for these. So they're about £35 a seminar, and it was an hour and a half with a wonderful teacher. Gosh, I've written his name down, Alejo Lopez, and he was really very knowledgeable. He packed a huge amount into an hour and a half. His seminar was all about the 12th house in an astrological chart. The 12th house is ruled by Pisces. So if you know anything about Pisces, if you've got any Pisces people here, then you'll know. But it's quite a tricky house to navigate and to translate for somebody, because it's very intangible and amorphous, and it deals kind of with the invisible realm and the collective unconscious and all of those kinds of things. And that would be very difficult to describe to somebody when you're doing a chart for them. And so Alejo really gave us some really interesting ideas of how to approach that. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. In fact, it made me think a little bit about the conversation that we had last week about the Happy Place book that spoke about multiverses and living different lives in lots of different multiverses. And the 12th house kind of has that level of wisdom of what all of those different lives are. So having that broad sense of everything, and that's why it makes it very difficult to describe. So it was very interesting seminar, and it was actually exactly what I needed, because it didn't require anything from me. There was no group work, there was no having to share things. People asked questions, but I was not one of those people. I just sat and I knitted and I listened and I made lots and lots of notes, And then afterwards they sent the recording and the slides out, so I can go back over that again. And I think you just have 30 days of access to that, but I will make a point of listening back to that and making a few more notes. And I picked up a book, where is it, that was recommended, and it's this one, just in case anybody else is interested in this kind of thing. The Houses, Temples of the Sky by Deborah Holding. It's a little bit more dry than I was expecting. It's a bit more sort of textbook style of book, whereas my preference for astrology books is more like this, which is my Bible when it comes to the houses in astrology. This is by Harold Sasportas, and it's called The 12 Houses, and it's a really lovely, thick description of all of the houses and things. So yes, if you are interested, then that's a couple of books that you might want to explore. But I'm not going to assume everybody's interested in reading their astrological charts. So yes, that was Saturday afternoon, and then I listened to we watched Sweet Tooth, and we finished. No, we didn't finish it. We've got another 3 episodes left. It is picking up a bit. I think I mentioned last time that I wasn't really enjoying it as much as I'd enjoyed the first season, but it is picking up a bit now. I think we've got 3 episodes to go. I thought we might finish it over the weekend, but we haven't. So we've still got another 3 episodes, but it has improved. The pace has increased a bit. The characters are a little bit more interesting again. It really did feel like a bit of a slow start to this season. So yes, we're bearing with it, and it is improving. So. The other thing that I watched on Saturday actually was Sari Nordland's podcast, Sari Knits. She was sharing some of the designs that she's going to be releasing or has released in the lead up to summer. And as always, her patterns are very, very beautiful. She has quite a few cable tee patterns. She had a lovely square scarf that looked quite kind of 1950s retro Hollywood style, you know. That was very pretty. And the thing that I really like that she is, I don't think it's out yet, I think it's called the Sunset Camisole. And she's knitted it in this kind of like burnt orange shade, and it's got like a frill that goes down the front on the diagonal. And it is beautiful. It's really lovely. The only problem for me is that the straps are very, very thin, and I can't really get away with very thin straps because I absolutely need to wear a bra. So it would have to be one of those pieces that you put over the top of a vest top or a camisole top or a tank or something, and then I think you've kind of lost the look. So anyway, I'm going to share that. I will share all of that, the details for it in the show notes in case anybody wants to follow up. But it is really beautiful. But I think possibly not for me. Sad times. So what else did I do? Let's looking at my notes. Okay, Sunday we were up early and we went through to Glasgow. Now, my son lives in Glasgow. He is currently at university there, and so we met up with him because unfortunately his computer is on its last legs. So my husband needed to go through and help him out with it. So that's what we were doing. So his computer problems got addressed, and I met up with my daughter Aurora and her boyfriend Sam. Sam's mum lives just outside of Glasgow, so they'd been visiting her the evening before, and so we met them up in town. And so we went to, rather than go do computer stuff, we went to Sostrene Grene. Now, Scotland has not had a Sostrene Grene. If you're not familiar with Sostrene Grene, Sam described it as a bougie IKEA marketplace. I think that's actually a really good description. I had been saying it's like Flying Tiger, but nicer. So, but I think a bougie IKEA marketplace is possibly the better descriptor. So we are going to be away for my daughter's birthday. So we went to Sostrene, and I gave her money to spend and buy herself some new things because she's moving house and she's setting up in a new space. And so I thought it'd be really lovely if she had some nice things from Sostrene to decorate with and to use. So I gave her money and we went in and we just had the most wonderful time. I don't know if you've ever been in a Sostrene, maybe it's very local to you and it's easily accessible, but as far as I'm aware, it's a Danish shop. I think it means Green Sisters, Sostrene. And like I said, it sells lots of things for, mostly homeware things. There's a few kind of like more personal items like toiletries and that kind of thing. There's some spices and some sweeties and some tea, but mostly it's things like candles and what else? And vases and all of that kind of thing. There's a wonderful stationery section, which I really enjoy. And there's also a craft section too, which sells some yarn. Of course. However, I didn't actually buy any yarn. I'm actually going to pop some video up here so that you can see the shop, because it's beautifully laid out and kind of color coded, and it's just really pretty. So I'm going to pop that up. But yes, they had a craft section, so I went through the craft section. I have treated myself to a few things from there, which I really like. And Aurora managed to pretty much spend most of the money that she was given, which is going some really, because a little goes a long way. So she had a great time. She went round and she bought lots of nice things for herself. So she was really happy. And then she was even happier when she managed to pack it all away into 2 tiny bags. So after that, I had actually looked up, because there is a lovely yarn shop in Glasgow called the Yarn Cake, and I have not been to the Yarn Cake. I had planned to go this time, and so I went to their Instagram and I clicked on the link on their Instagram profile, and the map came up and it showed me that their new shop that they've just opened is just round the corner from the St Enoch Centre, which is where Sostrene was. So I thought, oh, fantastic, that's, I can go there as well. So I showed Sam the map, and because he's much more familiar with Glasgow than either Aurora or I are. And so he said that was totally fine, he could find that for us. And then we were round and round and round the streets and trying to go up side streets that were blocked off, and and eventually I thought, this doesn't look right. It doesn't even look like the front of the shop that's, that I've seen on their Instagram. So then I went to their website and checked their contact us page for the address, and discovered that actually it's in Annie's Land, which is about 3 miles away from where I was. And unfortunately, just at that point, the boys had all finished up all of their computer things and were waiting for us in a pub. So I had to let go of going to the Yarn Cake this time, but I am absolutely going to go back, and I'm going to be going and checking it out, because it looks like they have a lovely stock. They have a beautiful new space, and yeah, if I do that, then obviously I would take my video footage there as well, so I could share it with all of you. But that will definitely be, maybe I'll get there over the summer. That would be nice. So that was a shame. So I didn't get to go to the yarn shop. I didn't buy yarn at Sostrene because I thought that I was going to be getting the yarn from the yarn shop. So I ended up with no yarn. Well, it's not entirely true. I'll show you what I got. So one thing that I did get, which I'm realising that I haven't brought over, is a pink bag. It's kind of like a dusky pink bag, and it's about this size, and it's got a gold zip that goes all the way around, and when you open it up, it's actually a backpack. backpack. So the thinking behind this was I am actually going to be attending, I think it's 4 yarn festivals this year. So I think I've got 1 in August, 2 in September, and 1 in October, and that's Rhinebeck. So I think there's a yarn festival happening, I think it's Northeast Wool, and that is happening in Gateshead, which is just outside of Newcastle. And then I think I'm also going to Yarndale, which is in Skipton. And then we've got the Scottish Festival of Yarn, Scottish Yarn Festival, the Scottish Yarn Festival in Perth, and that's in September. And then there's Rhinebeck in October, and I think we're probably going to try and go to Wool and Folk on the Friday. So technically that's another yarn festival. So, I better knit like the wind, I tell you. I'm gonna have to try and clear some stuff out of my stash before I go to all these places. Anyway, I thought it would be a handy thing to have, is this tiny little pouch that contains a backpack, and so that I could bring it with me, and if I buy some nice things then I can pop it in the backpack and then it's easy to transport. That was my thinking. But unfortunately it is in my handbag, which is in the front room, and I didn't bring it through, so I will show it to you properly next time. But the other things that I got were, got myself a little pink scrunchie. This is one of my colours of the summer. I've got quite a few tops and some dresses in this colour. I've bought some yarn in the BC Garn soft silk that I picked up from my little Mai in Cognac, the local yarn shop in Cognac. I picked up some 100% burette silk in this colour. I have left it at my mum's at the moment because it didn't fit in my suitcase. I hope that's not foreboding for Rhinebeck in October. I do hope I managed to get everything in my suitcase. But fortunately, they're going to be bringing it over for me, so I will I will have that just shortly. So I've got some ideas about what I want to knit with that, but I will get on to that bit a little bit later on. So yes, I got the scrunchie. I bought some lemon gum because I love all things lemon. I got some beautiful washi tape. I love washi tape. I love wrapping things in washi tape and tissue paper and really taking my time over it to do it really beautifully. I've got quite a range of washi tape for packaging. I don't really use it for anything else. I know there's some people that use washi tape for journaling and things. I do journal, but my journaling is more like messy Dear Diary kind of stuff. It's not so much like scheduling and bullet journaling and lists and that kind of thing. My journaling is a bit more kind of question and answer, let's say that. So yes, I don't tend to use washi, or I don't tend to decorate my journals or anything like that, because I know that's quite a common use for these. Mine is very much for wrapping up presents, and I thought this was a really pretty washi tape to add to my collection. In the craft section, there were these, and I love these. I love a light bulb pin, and it's that kind of thing where you buy it, like you get like a pack of 500, and within about, certainly within a year, you have 5 left. And you're left wondering, where did the other 495 go? So I'm kind of in that position just now. I, for some reason, seem to have a real dearth of light bulb pins. So this is a packet of 30, so that'll go slightly towards replacing the other 495. And I also got these little O-rings, and this is like a little matchbox. And these are fabulous. So I'm just using these as stitch markers. like this, and they don't have any catches on them. They're round, they're complete. They won't catch on your knitting at all, which is kind of what you want from stitch markers, isn't it? And they just sit in my little matchbox. These tell me that these were £1.78 for 30, and my light bulb pins were £1.14. That's the big spenders, me. So there we go. I got both of those. I also bought these lovely little labels that say "Made with Love." They were £1.98. And I got some tea, which is called Hello Sofa. And it is an easygoing, all organic spicy chai with matcha. So I haven't started them yet, but what I can tell you is that this smells amazing. So yes, they've got quite a few different types of teas and things, which all looked quite interesting. So I'll start with this one, and I can always go back, because now that I've been once to Sostrene Grene in Glasgow, I will be able to find it again, she says optimistically. Glasgow, and I frequently get lost in Glasgow. Glasgow is unlike most of Edinburgh. Edinburgh New Town certainly is built on a grid system, but the rest of Edinburgh is pretty haphazard. But I find it really easy to get around. Well, I've lived in Edinburgh since I was a child, so yes, it's a very familiar space, and I've got stories connected to spaces here because I have that sense of familiarity. And I don't have those stories connected to Glasgow because it's not as familiar a city to me. So there's that, but also, like I say, there's this grid system. So Glasgow is built on a grid system. And for some reason, I really struggle with grid systems. I've also got lost in New York, Montreal, and I think I also got lost in Boston, and I think that was also a grid system issue. But anyway, for some reason, as soon as I turn a corner, I become disorientated and I can't figure out where I am in relationship to anything else. So I just have to try and memorize routes. So like particular pathways and ways of getting from A to B. So I think I've done that for getting to St Enoch Centre, which means that I can now get to two places in Glasgow. One, my son's flat, and the other is Sostrene Grene. So that's a bit pathetic. But yes, I do. I really struggle with the grid system. I don't really know why. I think it's also connected to why I struggle with numbers. I kind of struggle with space and navigating within a space. So yes, I think that knitting absolutely helps me with all of that. I think it helps me to orientate myself within a pattern and therefore within a space, and then I get a sense of like a tangible manifestation of that, of maneuvering through a pattern and through your directions, but it's still, I still do struggle with it. So anyway, that's by the by. That's what I got from Sostrene Grene. Sostrene Grene, I think, opened up last year in Glasgow. It's the first and the only Sostrene Grene in the whole of Scotland. I think there's quite a few of them in England, and the only one I had been to was Bordeaux in France, so I know that they're certainly on the continent. So I'm not sure if they are over in the States or not, or if they're spread even further afield to Australia or South Africa. I'm not sure, but certainly if you get a chance to go to one, I recommend it. It's yeah, I just really like going to Sostrene Grene, and I will be back. Oh, I didn't show you the yarn that I did actually buy, which is this metallic yarn. That's their branding. So this metallic yarn is 60% cotton, 40% polyester. I'm assuming the polyester is the glittery bit. It's kind of like a creamy colour, and it's got this gold stellina through it. They're 25 grams each. They cost me £2.58 each. And I got 3. I've started using one and I'll show you what I'm using it for. But they only say 25 grams. They don't actually give you meterage. So that's slightly unfortunate. I would like to know, I'd like to know how much yarn I have. But anyway, I thought it's fun for just adding a little bit of sparkle into a project, and that's what I'm doing. So I will show you that. I will show you that just shortly. Okay, so the other thing that I did on Sunday when we got home, my tummy was a bit upset again, so I just set myself up on this futon here and did a little bit more knitting. I finished the secret knit, you'll be pleased to hear. I don't need to talk about it anymore. And I watched the Knitting Posse because they had a live on Sunday evening, well, Sunday evening my time. It would have been earlier on Sunday for them. And it was so fun to catch up with them. And it's one of those things when I'm just sitting here and I've got my iPad open and it kind of popped up that they were doing a live, and it's like, oh, it's like when that happens with the Grocery Girls, or sometimes Needles at the Ready do a live as well. So you just go, oh, they're right there and they're doing it right now. And so I don't think I'll be doing a live. I think it's flying by the seat of my pants by myself. I think maybe it'd be easier to do it if there's 2 people. Maybe that's why the ones that I'm familiar with all have 2 people. But I think it would be harder to do a live when it's just you. That said, I don't seem to be running out of things to talk about, so I probably would get away with it. But yes, I watched the Knitting Posse and I so loved the shrug that Kate was wearing. It's the Scarborough Shrug by Pam Allen. I'll pop a little photograph up of it here. And I've been thinking about what I wanted to make that out of myself. So I've been scouting around a bit to see what I had, and I had a few options. One is, and I'll put a photograph up because I'm realising I didn't bring it through, is a cone from Woolly Knit, which is the linen cotton, and it's lace weight. I knitted my Plant Lady tee in it last year, and that's a design by Amanita, and I knitted that in, it's kind of like a golden sort of sunflower shade, but I did also buy a dark navy at the same time, and I haven't used that, so I would need to hold it double, but I think that would be a really pretty option. And it's kind of lace, it's easy lace, it's not super frilly, or it's very classy and it's beautiful, and I think it would be a nice piece to wear in the summertime to kind of, if it got a bit hot, then, and I felt like if my skin was burning, then it might be something I could quickly throw on, or something I could put in my luggage and take on a holiday with me and wear in the evening if we were going to eat out or something. So yes, I'm intrigued by that, and so that was an interesting pattern. And of course they mentioned as well their knit along that I'm participating in. The Lucca scarf that I am knitting in Ginger Twist's Gorblimey Splendid Lace, I've knitted a very little bit on it. I've not really made very much progress since the last time I showed you, but it is fast approaching Ginger Twist's 10th birthday, and I would really like to have this Lucca scarf finished by then. So I'm giving myself a little bit of a deadline, so I'm really going to be cracking on with that in the next couple of weeks because I really want to have that done. And I'm almost at halfway, which, considering I don't feel like I've done a huge amount of work on it, is quite miraculous. So I'm pretty sure I could get it finished, but it would be fun to wear for the 10th birthday. So I have my I have my eye on getting it done by then. So fingers crossed. I can do that. I can do that. So Monday. Well, Monday was time to do something different. Monday was the time to cast on this cardigan for Alex because I need to get it finished really fast. I had scouted around a bit for a pattern, and I think I mentioned last time which pattern I had chosen. It's the Hannah cardigan, and that's by Sarah Antipenkov, and she goes by Noelle Knits, Noelle Knits on Instagram. And it's a lovely little pattern. It does 6 to 12 months up to 10 to 12 years. And you can knit it in using 2 strands of fingering weight held together, and then go down to just 1 strand for a double knitted button band. Or you can knit it in DK weight and just do a ribbed button band. So I showed both options to my soon-to-be sister-in-law and asked her which option she preferred, and she really liked the ribbed button band. So because of that, we decided that we would go with the yarn that I inherited from my gran. So we had to wind up some of this because it was I don't know if you saw last week, it was like a massive ball, but it was actually, as it turned out, 3 skeins kind of all skeined up together to create a massive hank, a massive skein of yarn. So yes, my husband and I think it was actually on Sunday evening, we wound up one of the skeins, and so the next morning I knitted up my swatch and left it to dry. And this is my swatch. Let me see. Yes, it goes that way around. This is my swatch in the blue yarn. So it's a DK weight. I am still unsure of the composition of the yarn itself. I am going to burn a little bit of it to see how the yarn responds. If the fibres melt, then that would suggest that it's got some plastic content in it, so polyamide or nylon or acrylic. If that doesn't do that and it just kind of disintegrates, then that suggests that it's 100% natural fibres. And I wouldn't normally bother with that, but because I am giving this to my brother and my sister-in-law, then they will need to know how to wash it. And so I think having an understanding of actually what's in this yarn would be helpful. So I'm going to do that. My gauge was absolutely spot on with the suggested needle size. Bang on. I was really pleased, particularly because I had never done half fisherman's rib before. So I watched a video that was, it's Andrea Mowry. I watched Andrea Mowry show how to do the half fisherman's rib. And I also watched how to do the increase, I think. I haven't watched the one on how to do the decreases because I'm not at that point yet. So that was exciting. That, you know, and a lovely cast on. Swatch worked out perfectly. It's got a really nice feel to it. So I let it dry for a bit. And while it was drying, I walked over to my office because we'd had notification that I had a parcel there, and a lovely viewer, you know who you are, thank you so much, had bought this wool winder for me, which I'm hugely grateful for. It was a very kind thing. I have been procrastinating on getting my ball winding situation sorted. I don't know if you find this. I sometimes get a bit bewildered with the amount of choice that's available, and then it means that I have to make decisions, and then I put that off. And so then I end up, well, as it's turned out, I've ended up winding yarn by hand for over a month because I couldn't, actually it's been longer than a month, because I couldn't come to a decision. And so when this very lovely viewer got in touch and said she would like to gift me this, then that made the decision for me. So I was very grateful for that too. So I went and picked that up from the office, and so now I can wind all the yarn and cast on all the things, and I will be telling you more about that later on also, because I've got lots of plans. So then I made my way back over and back home again, and I cast on the cardigan, because by that point the swatch had dried and I could make a beginning on it. And I was going to be going to knit night, so knit night is not a great place to cast on a new project. That said, I think there were about 3 people casting on projects on Monday. But I wanted to cast mine on and have like a little bit, be a bit further on with it, so I knew kind of what I was about with it, so I could, you know, have a chat and not have to pay a huge amount of attention to it. So I cast it on just before I left for knit night. I knitted a few rows, I got the pattern in my head, I'd already watched the tutorials, I had my swatch and I had right gauge. I had my yarn wound in a ball. Can you tell my husband wound this one? Because mine are all rugby ball shaped, but his are not. And so I cast it on. I did quite a lot of knitting at knit night, more than I expected to. And then I came home and I worked on it a little bit more, and then I worked on it on Tuesday morning. And so far, this is what I have. Isn't this just absolutely beautiful? It is such a lovely, that's the back. It's got such a lovely construction. Look at this. Isn't that pretty? That's, you know, the way that you're picking up your stitches, the way you're shaping your pieces, the way it all comes together is just so pleasing. The pattern is very well written. It's easy to follow. The fisherman's rib is a joy to knit, and it is so squishy. I'm absolutely in love with the increases. I mean, it does look like brioche. And, you know, the way that you knit half fisherman's rib is reminiscent of the brioche stitch. It's basically just another way of getting to the same place as brioche, but it's just a different technique. And I've done quite a lot of brioche, but I had never done half fisherman's rib before. And so I was just really pleased with it, because these absolutely look like brioche increases down the front. So I have joined in the round, and I'm maybe about half an inch into that. So I'm just going to keep going with the body now and then add the sleeves. But that all knitted up, like I said, I cast it on Monday night and I did some on Tuesday morning, and that's what I have. So it really has come together very, very quickly, and that's been a relief, quite honestly. Because I was a little bit concerned about, you know, trying to get this cardigan finished in time. It's quite short notice. I know I'm quite a quick knitter, and I'm more than a quick knitter. I'm quite an obsessive knitter, and so I'm always knitting. I always want to be knitting. If I'm not knitting, I want to be knitting. So I was pretty sure that I could do it, but I really wasn't very sure whether it was going to be a comfortable process or whether I was going to feel a bit stressed and pushed. But as it is, I don't feel stressed and pushed at all now, because I know that this is going to come. I can probably have this done by the end of the weekend, maybe even by the weekend. I'm recording this on Wednesday, so yes, I should be able to have have this done by just a few days' time, I think. So, like I say, it's a joy. I recommend the pattern. I think somebody mentioned that Petite Knit also has a half fisherman's rib cardigan. I think Andrea Mowry certainly does. I think the Stria cardigan is half fisherman's, and Rebecca Clow also has a half fisherman's zipper jumper called the Lanark. And I do actually have the Lanark pattern. and I had planned to knit that for my family members at some point. I know that my sons would definitely love a zipper sweater, so that will probably be in the future for them, but particularly so now, because now that I've done it once, I'm like, okay, I know what I'm about. I really like this stitch. I want to do more of this stitch. It's just very puffy. Look at this. Look at the volume in it. Can you see? And again, you know, there's just something nice. I'm glad that we went for this yarn in particular, that it's from my Gran's stash, so that we can have that, and that's going to be Alex's little cardigan, just in case it gets cold. I'm hoping it won't. It is. Apparently we've got some sort of African plume, was the way it was described in the weather. So we have a plume of hot weather that's coming up from south to north. And so today is warm. It's supposed to be much warmer over this weekend again. And then I think it gets a bit cooler, but then I think the weather improves again in the lead up to the wedding. So fingers crossed. Cross your fingers for us that we're going to get nice weather. I hope so. And maybe this little cardigan won't be needed at all. And if that's the case, that's also completely fine. But what I thought would be nice is I'm going to pop one of these on it, just because I thought that would be a lovely thing. And yes, I should say too, is I'm knitting the size 2 to 3. I think it says that I can't remember how many inches positive ease is recommended, but I think the 2 to 3 size gave me just an inch more than the recommended ease. So it will be one of these pieces that hopefully fits him beautifully on the day, but also something that he's going to be able to wear for a little while. So yes, because I had knitted the cardigan, and because I started that and it was going so well, I thought, well, why not just cast on something else? Now that you're not in a panic about whether you're going to be able to finish this or not, just cast on something else. So I did. I have had my eye on this pattern for a long time. I do quite a lot. I have test knit two things now. Yes, two pieces for Rebecca Clow of the Creabea podcast. I didn't put myself forward to knit the Tolsta, just because of everything that I had on at the time. But I absolutely had my eye on it. So when it came out, I bought the pattern, and I've been wanting to cast it on, particularly when the weather gets nicer, because then it's like you really just want to be knitting on all of the summer tees. And then I'm watching all these fabulous podcasts where everybody's casting on all of these amazing summer tees, and I want to be casting that on too. So anyway, I have. And this is what I have so far. So, oh dear, should have put it that way. That's better. You can see it properly now. There we go. So I am using Drops Muskat, which is in this kind of taupe shade, and I'm putting a black stripe in of black Drops Muskat. Muskat is, or is it Muskat? Muskat? Anyway, it's 100% cotton. And it is 100 meters or 109 yards per 50 grams. So I am knitting that, but you might spot something which you have seen earlier. So I've added some sparkle. I've added a strand of this. So basically what I'm doing, the wonderful thing about the Tolsta, is quite a simple raglan tee, and it has quite a nice large knit, and it's up on quite a loose gauge on size 5mm needles, and it's really open to modification and experimentation. So that said, The pattern itself comes as like the basic pattern, and then you also get a kind of a pack of modification ideas, which includes a lot of what the testers were exploring and what their modifications were to the pattern, and describes them, and so it's very inspiring. So I had originally thought that I would just knit myself a Tolsta in this taupey colour here, but then I decided after looking at that pack that I wanted to be a little bit more creative, and so I was going to add in a black. I was going to add in this. I was actually just going to add in the sparkly yarn. So I'm holding the sparkle yarn with my taupe yarn for 2 rows, and then I decided actually it would look better if I added in some black. So then I've added in 2 rows of black, and now I'm back to doing, I think it's, did I decide to do 6 or 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I've decided to do 8 rows of the taupe, and then I'll start another sparkle row and another black row. So that's my Tolsta tee. I'm really excited about it. I think the yarn feels very lovely. It feels, it's quite soft for a cotton. Sometimes I think cotton can feel a little bit stiff. I actually at knit night on Monday, somebody had brought in their cotton cone from Woolly Knit, and I know that Rebecca is doing a collaboration at the moment with Woolly Knit for a summer cone along, and so there's a discount at the moment on their cones. You can go check out her podcast to find out more about that. But I have not bought any, because I do have cotton in my stash, and I've got quite a lot of summer yarns that I want to use. Like I said, I'm trying to use up some of what's in my stash before I go to all of these festivals. But I was really impressed with it. It felt really very soft and very lovely. So I thought that was quite interesting. But yes, mine is the Drops Muskat. And so I was knitting that, and then it made me think about some other tees that I'm interested in knitting. So I just thought I would share that with you. Have you been watching Mega's Skeins of Dreams podcast? Because she's doing an informal, what's it called? Summer Tea of Dreams, Cal. So if you go to the hashtag Summer Tea of Dreams, then you'll see some of what people are casting on. But as part of that, she has test knitted the Tankar tee, which is a pattern by Anina of Annie Newton Knits, and I thought it was just incredibly beautiful. It's not released yet, so I'm going to have to wait a few more days, maybe a week. I think it's maybe coming out in about a week's time. But it's got kind of like a garter section at the top. It's quite a loose fit. I really, really like it. I'll pop a picture up of it. I'm not describing it terribly well. But I thought it would be perfect in my Reborn Jeans Kremke yarn. And I think I showed you this last week as one of the options for the baby's cardigan. We decided not to go with that. It's the wrong colour. And I think it's the wrong fibre for that project. But I think it would be perfect for this tee. So I think I'm going to cast that on when that comes out. So that's exciting. And then the other tee that I'm really excited about is there's the Soho by Kadri. And again, it's a garter. It's kind of like a garter camisole. Sarah of the Black Sheep Knitter is working on hers. I have this soft silk by BC Garn. It's 350 meters for 100 grams. It's barrette silk, and I was thinking that I could knit this into that Soho top. The other person I saw who'd knitted a really lovely Soho top was Casey of the Young Folk Knits. I think she possibly was a test knitter for Kadri and knitted it, and I thought at the time that it looked really lovely, and then seeing Sarah's, and it's just kind of back on my radar. So I think this would be really a fun yarn to do that with. And then I also have to mention then that I do have a summer knit that has been hibernating from last summer. And I pulled it out because I was thinking, I am just going to frog this. I'm going to frog this, I'm going to use the yarn for something else, and I probably won't wear it anyway, it's not really my style, blah blah blah. It's a load of rubbish. It is totally my style. It is lovely. I tried it on, still really like it. I'm not frogging it. So I need to put it back on my needles. But do you remember this? This is the, oh gosh, what's it called? It's by Hochi Locatelli, the Long Summer Cardie. I think it's called the Long Summer Cardie. And so basically you have these twisted rib sections, and then you've got these kind of garter bump sections with your contrast yarn, and then a little bit of stockinette. I'm pretty far through. I've done all of the shoulder shaping, which was lovely. Hochi always does like beautifully shaped cardigans. I just really love the way that she kind of constructs, and this felt like a bit like a jigsaw puzzle that when it finally all came together, it was like, oh, I see. And so yes, I knitted the fronts, I knitted the back, I joined to knit the body, and I've knitted a fair few inches on the body, but because it's a long summer cardie, there's actually still quite a lot still to go, and obviously still got the sleeves. So there's actually still a lot of knitting to go on this, but I found when the weather got colder that my motivation to knit on a summer cardigan went absolutely out the window. My yarn, I should actually say, is Coast by Holst, which is this. I've got the cone, I think the colour is Carnation. Oh no, it's not, it's called Candy. I was close. And it's 55% wool, 45% cotton. And my contrast is Holst Super Soft in bleached white. I still have lots of that left. So there we go. I've popped it on hold. I'm pretty sure that I just used the suggested needles because generally I get gauged with suggested needles for Hochi's patterns. So instead of ripping it back, I think I am actually going to crack on with it and work on it a bit more, because I think it would be a really nice sunny summer piece. So anyway, there we go. That's my other summer knit that is in progress. And that kind of really just brings me up to today. So that's not quite true, because there was something else that happened yesterday. And there's something else that happens yesterday is what I'm about to share with you today. Which is, I decided that I was going to take myself for a walk to the Botanical Gardens. I love the Botanical Gardens in Edinburgh. They are beautiful. They are very, very well established. So you've got really, really big old trees, which are just lovely to be in the presence of. I have lots of lovely memories of being a child in the gardens, and I have lovely memories of my children being kids in the gardens. I have nice memories of being there with friends and with family, and now also just by myself even. So I wandered around the gardens, and they were just, they just look so good. One thing at the moment, unfortunately, is that the glass houses are all closed and they're doing a lot of work. So part of the gardens, which are usually accessible, are all blocked off. So that's, and have been for quite a long time. So I don't know when the schedule for reopening that part of the gardens is yet, but hopefully it's not too long. And the other slightly unfortunate thing is Frank and I have a favourite bench. There are benches all over the Botanical Gardens, but there was a bench right next to a tree that we really love, which is called the wingnut tree. And it has a fantastic root structure. It's a beautiful tree. And there was a bench right next to the wingnut tree that we'd go get our coffee. I always get a piece of stem ginger flapjack, which is gluten-free and delicious, and their coffee is really good. So we like to get our coffee, a little bite to eat from the Gatehouse Cafe over at the East Gate, and then walk over to the bench. So when I got there yesterday, I went and got my coffee, I got my stem ginger flapjack, and I walked over, took it all over to sit on the bench, only to discover that the bench is completely gone and they have built toilets there. So I was like, oh, I didn't quite know what to do with myself. Do you know when you sometimes have like a set course of action and then all of a sudden that's not available to you anymore and you're kind of like, oh, but I was going to sit there. Well, anyway, there was lots of other benches to sit on, so it was not a problem. But yes, that looks like we'll need to find a new favourite bench. So that will be our quest next time we go together. But yes, I decided actually before I left that I was going to video as much as I could of the walk along the cycle path network. And the cycle path network is made up of a lot of the old train tracks and the routes that the trains used to go through the city. So it's kind of set a bit further down than street level, and it's a series of paths that people walk and cycle on, and it links up pretty much all of the north part of Edinburgh. The south of Edinburgh, unfortunately, doesn't have a cycle path network, or it's not been extended that way, but there are cycle paths options and things on the streets, but it's not quite as safe and certainly not as secluded as the network. So as I've mentioned before, I am somewhat directionally challenged, but I can remember a route. So I know which way to go to get to the Botanical Gardens. So yes, I walked to the Botanical Gardens. I videoed quite a lot of it. And when I got to the Botanical Gardens, I did even more videoing. So I am going to wrap things up here for now. And then I'm going to upload everything onto my desktop. And I'm going to edit together the footage that I collected from my walk yesterday, because I really want to share with you the Botanical Gardens. I really want to share with you the beautiful walk that I went on, and I especially want to share with you the incredible flowers that I found at the very end of my walk. So I'm going to go and do all of that. This has been a delight as always. I hope you felt the same. And yeah, I will record again hopefully next week, and I should probably have a bit more knitting to share with you now that I'm no longer working on the secret knit. So we'll see what I've got to share with you next week, but certainly progress on Tolsta tea. I would imagine I will have finished the cardigan. I probably won't have given it away yet, so I'll probably still have that. And yeah, expect there might be some other things. Some progress on the Lucca scarf would be good. That's what I'm going to zero in on. Okay, my darlings, you take good care, and we will speak really soon.